counterstrikes from Iran on Israel today as President Trump warning Iran to make a deal before there's nothing left. Joining me now in studio to discuss these implications of Israel's Operation Rising Lion is retired Lieutenant Colonel Darren Gaub, who served in the U.S. Army as a Black Hawk helicopter pilot and battalion commander. He's also a geopolitical strategist. Colonel, it's great to have you in studio with us.
Hey, you too, see. Great to see you again.
So Iran launching a second barrage of missiles this afternoon in retaliation to Israel's operation last night. Is this a strong or weak response from Iran, in your opinion? And how significant might this escalation be?
I would call it a significant response. It remains to be seen whether or not it's an effective response. And that could be driven by, of course, the results. But frankly, Iran is really sort of only capable of this kind of attack on Israel. They're not really the kind of military that would come at you from multiple different angles. We knew it was going to be an airborne attack by missiles, intercontinental or other size, and drones. That's just what they do. So you can defend against that relatively easy. It's still very dangerous. But the message is that Iran will counterattack, but either way, Israel is capable of far more than Iran is.
Now, the main locations that Israel hit last night were Iran's nuclear development sites. That's obviously the main issue here, including its primary uranium enrichment facility. The IDF spokesperson outlined the threat. Let's play the clip.
For years, the Iranian regime has called for the destruction of the state of Israel, planning and advancing concrete military plans to do so. Over the past few months, intelligence has shown that Iran is closer than ever to obtaining a nuclear weapon. This morning, the IDF began preemptive and precise strikes targeting the Iranian nuclear program in order to prevent the Iranian regime's ability to build a nuclear bomb in the immediate time frame. We have no choice. We are operating against an imminent and existential threat. We cannot allow the Iranian regime to obtain a nuclear weapon that would be a danger to Israel and the entire world. This operation is for our right to exist here, for our future and for our children's future. The State of Israel has the right and the obligation to operate in order to protect its people and will continue to do so. The IDF conducted significant preparations for this operation. We are well prepared both in defense and offense to defend ourselves. The IDF will continue to defend the state of Israel.
So based on what we see and what we know right now from all reports from last night's strike in Iran by Israeli forces, do you think that this effectively neutralized the nuclear threat coming out of Iran?
I wouldn't call it neutralized just yet. And I think what the biggest thing that people are going to be waiting on, specifically within the Israeli Defense Forces and Netanyahu's, the assessment phase of the bombing campaign they've had so far. What targets did they have initially laid on? Which ones did they hit? Of the ones that they hit, how many of those are neutralized? And what requires them to come back for a second visit? Either re-hitting another target again or hitting new targets that had later plans for anyways. But I wouldn't say that it's neutralized yet. That's just what I'm seeing. But they'll have to come out with that, and at some point they'll say yes or no that they were able to successfully accomplish that.
So I want to talk to you about what might be next for the region after this strike. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu giving a message to the people of Iran. Let's play that clip. Sure.
Our actions against Iran's proxy Hezbollah led to the establishment of a new government in Lebanon and the collapse of Assad's murderous regime in Syria. The peoples of those two countries now have a chance for a different future, a better future. So too do the brave people of Iran, and I have a message for them. Our fight is not with you. Our fight is with the brutal dictatorship that has oppressed you for 46 years. I believe that the day of your liberation is near.
So Iran's highest military commander killed, other high-ranking commanders in the Iranian military also taken out. How much does this ultimately cripple Iran? And it sounds like the Prime Minister of Israel there is hinting at regime change.
Absolutely. And I think Iran's been close to that for quite a while now, and it's a simple question of when will the Iranian people, should they choose to, rise up and throw off their dictators in whatever manner they do that, because that opportunity is being provided for them. And they may take it, because Iran, prior to 1979, was a wonderful country. I mean, in many ways, it looked sort of European. And that's the opportunity that they may have. They may take it, they may not, we'll see. But the greater region, of course, is the continued destruction and dismantlement and reducing the effectiveness of all those proxies from Gaza and the other ones we've already talked about. And the next thing being, now how does this affect the more global picture of the relationships, as has already been discussed briefly, on between Iran and China, and frankly Iran and Russia, because that's important too. This could have the chance for regime change not only in Iran, but the relationships among those nations that has developed over years too.
The Chinese Communist Party being one of them.
Chinese Communist Party being one of them, and by the way, Iran was an exporter of weapons, and specifically drones, that kept many parts of the war going between Russia and Ukraine. All that is affected.
Absolutely. Trump saying today that he gave Iran a 60-day warning. Today is day 61, 1 day past his deadline for the Iranian regime. And also that the negotiators were not agreeing to the deal with the United States. Those ones have been killed, many of them. In your assessment, how much involvement did the U.S. have in this, and was Israel acting unilaterally?
Well, I'd say there's a mix of answers to that question. The first one being that I've always advocated for the fact that Israel needs to lead this, because they're the ones that have the actual threat, existential threat against their nation leveled against them by Iran. We know, though, that we are right next to Israel when it comes to how much Israel hates the two of us. And that threat exists also. I think that's going to be one of the focus areas, is going to be rebuilding or showing that strength relationship. But right now, I'd say what the military is doing would be intelligence support, targeting support, maybe some logistics. And of course, we're a primary supplier that, as Israel buys things like the Arrow missile systems and all that is being employed right now, no doubt we're in the background in a heavy way.
I want to talk to you about the sophisticated nature of this attack. This operation took years of planning, surveillance, infiltration. They even built an entire drone facility within the borders of Iran. In that respect, it's similar to, I don't know what you would compare it to. Are we seeing a shift in the way warfare tactics operate? And how was Israel ultimately able to pull this off?
We are seeing a shift in the way warfare is going forward, and this is actually a shift that I wrote about 15 years ago after already completing 5 years of training and research on this exact topic. And so the future of warfare is not only unmanned by drones, both land, sea, and air. It's cheap, off the shelf in many cases, lethal. And the best example I can give you is when you expend a $175,000 missile or drone system and sink a multi-million-dollar ship, or blow up a multi-million-dollar bomber in Russia. That's really the future of Russia, or of warfare. And what you're doing is leveling the field a little bit more between the non-industrial nations and those of us who have the capacity to maybe spend a whole lot more money than we should. We need to adjust to this, because the other message is sneaking drones into nations and using those to attack critical infrastructure. That should concern the American mainland and Homeland Security a lot.
Now, on a slightly lighter but perhaps timely note, you're going to be joining us here tomorrow night while the nation celebrates the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary parade. I want to play a clip from President Trump anticipating those events. Sure.
I hope the weather's okay, but actually if it's not, that brings you good luck. And that's okay too. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the tanks at all. It doesn't affect the soldiers. They're used to it. They're tough.
So the weather might not be great. You were a soldier.
Yeah.
What are you anticipating?
Well, I will say that I pretty much marched this route in 1993, and if it rains, it doesn't matter how tough you are. It's still not all that fun. But it can be done. I'm looking forward to seeing the array of helicopters and ground equipment, but also the the examples of uniforms and different things throughout America's Army history. And I think the message is going to be awesome, because what it really tells us all is that there's a 250-year history for one nation under one constitution, which is the only example of its kind in history. And the Army is just a reflection of that history of an entire nation.
Retired Army Colonel Darren Gaub, looking forward to having you here tomorrow to break it all down and enjoy the sights of the U.S. Army's 250th birthday.
Me too, Steve. Can't wait.
Thank you.